We are 3 months into 2026, which makes us a quarter of the way through the year. So I'd like to take the time to go through the best novels I've read so far this year. So I've picked out 5 novels that are my favorites of the year so far, and they're all very close in what I like the best. They're all about in the 4 to 4.5 star range. I haven't encountered a 5-star read yet this year, so there's still, of course, plenty of time for that with the rest of the year. But these 5 novels are all very good, and I do have one favorite that I think edges out the rest by just a little bit, and I'm going to go over that one last. And then the other 4 that I'm going to go over, they're not in any particular order of what I like the best or the least. They're all roughly, I like them all roughly the same. So let's get into the first one that I want to talk about. So the first book I'd like to mention is Salvation Lost by Peter F. Hamilton. Now this is the second book in his Salvation Sequence trilogy. And I read the first book, Salvation, a couple months ago and really enjoyed it. It is a science fiction novel. It's kind of a space opera, but there's not much like spaceships and stuff like that going on. But the way that Earth and humanity has expanded into the galaxy is through the use of portal technology. So instead of using like ships to travel through space, we have these portals where they'll send out a spaceship to another planet, set up this portal that then they can instantly travel back to Earth. And the first book I really enjoyed. It has this portal technology is really interesting. It has this, Peter F. Hamilton built this whole economy around, kind of what the world and society would look like if we had access to instantaneous travel. So anyway, that was all. The first book was kind of focused on the portal technology and all that. And there's also this alien race that has showed up called the Allieks, and they're kind of a benevolent alien species, at least in the first book. And they're kind of there to help humanity and provide some medical technologies and things like that. And they're interested in trading with them, because the Allieks are on this quest to find the God at the center of the universe. And so the second novel we have is kind of almost an alien invasion story. And there's more than just the Allieks in this. There are other alien species. So I won't mention which species of alien is doing the invasion, just to avoid spoilers for the first book. But this book was very much focused on the kind of the tactics and the strategy of how to prepare for this alien invasion and what humanity is going to do. What steps are they going to take to survive? And it was a really good book, action-packed. I had a lot of interesting characters. It also has this narrative. So we have characters kind of on the present timeline. It's not present day, it's in the future, but the kind of the main timeline of the characters trying to figure out how to combat this alien invasion force that is coming. And then we have another set of characters that's set in the far future, where they are kind of, humanity has expanded into the universe, and they're kind of they're almost fleeing from this alien species, escaping from them. But they're not quite doing that. They're also finding ways to fight and spread throughout the galaxy and things like that. So we have these two kind of narratives that are really, really fun and interesting. And I really enjoyed this book. It's only the second Peter F. Hamilton I've read, the first being Salvation. And I do plan on reading the third one fairly soon to finish out the whole trilogy. And it's kind of difficult to give a review of this one because it is the second part in a 3-part story. I could very much see these 3 books being just one giant book, but the publisher decided to split these into 3 books, so you can't really give a review without seeing the full picture, the full story. So I want to read that whole trilogy and then give my final thoughts on that. And the next book I'd like to talk about is Fearless by Allen Stroud. And this one's just a straight up space opera. This is I would consider this a very underrated book. I haven't really seen anyone else talking about it except for Robin from his channel Bookspin. And this one is set in the future, the year 2118, where humanity has expanded into the solar system. They've colonized the moon, Mars, the asteroid dwarf planet Ceres. And so this book is actually very kind of a tightly contained plot. It's a very kind of a simple story. It is about a fleet patrol ship that they patrol the solar system, and this crew, kind of their outstanding mission is to perform rescue operations for other ships within the solar system. And they get a distress call from a freighter it's a cargo hauler. And so they make their way to investigating this freighter. And when they get there, it turns out it's not quite just a simple rescue mission. This freighter has been attacked by another ship. And so far, humanity's expansion into the solar system, there have been no wars, no space battles, or anything like that. There has not been any sort of conflict in space. So they get to this freighter, and it's clearly been attacked. And then it ends up being this rescue ship ends up being in this space battle situation. And so the entire plot of this story is this crew of the rescue ship performing the rescue and then engaging with this other ship that's out there in this kind of tactical battle situation. And it takes place on a relatively short time span. And I really like this book. I would describe it kind of as hard. It's almost a hard science fiction book because Allen Stroud talks a lot about the orbital mechanics and the calculations of velocity and acceleration and deceleration, and they have to deal with zero gravity and kind of all the challenges of performing spacewalks and docking with other ships in space, and then the physics around space battles and all that stuff. So there's kind of a hard science aspect to that, which I really enjoyed. And it has almost a military science fiction feel. So this rescue ship is part of it's part of the Earth fleet, and it is a military structure. So we have a captain and a lieutenant and ensigns, and then all the rest of the crew, the technicians and engineers and all these other characters in it they're all performing their separate duties on this ship, and they're all kind of experts at their whatever their assigned duty is. So this novel is full of kind of each of the characters going through the tactics of space battle and some strategy and solving the problems that come along with having to repair things on the different ships. And so there's a lot of engineering, a lot of problem solving in this, which I really thought was really fun to read. And I think if you're a fan of The Expanse, which I'm a huge fan of The Expanse, if you like The Expanse, you're also going to really like Fearless by Allen Stroud. And so all those kind of aspects together really ended up with a really riveting read, I would say. And it is the first book in a trilogy, so I think kind of the main engagement, the main conflict of this book does get resolved. It does end with questions unanswered, and so we kind of need to go into the sequel to see what's happening next. So just be aware I would consider this a 3-part story, but I think if you just wanted to read it and not commit to reading the 3, I think you'd still be okay with just reading the first one. And then if you liked it enough, you could, continue on with the trilogy, which is what I am planning on doing. So this was an underrated novel that has so far made my best books of the year. All right, so the third book I want to talk about is another space opera. I think we're seeing a trend here. This one is Dennis Taylor's We Are Legion, We Are Bob, which is the first book in the Bobbyverse. So I really like this book. It is about this character named Bob, And very early on in the book, he's on Earth and he has this terrible accident, and his body is cryogenically frozen until he gets woken up in the future. But it's only his brain that gets revived. And it turns out his mind has been cloned and copied into machines. And he becomes a von Neumann probe, which, if you're not familiar with von Neumann probes, it is kind of a self-replicating space vessel that gets sent out so it doesn't have to be crewed by humans. And it's just a machine, and needs some kind of AI intelligence, or in this case, an uploaded intelligence of Bob, so it can go out into space and expand, gather resources in other solar systems to produce more of itself, and then further expand out into space. So it's kind of an exponential expansion situation. So Bob is placed into this spaceship, and he becomes a von Neumann probe, where he's sent out in other solar systems. So we have all these Bobs out here in space, and every time he copies himself, he's a little bit different. So we have several characters, and they're all Bob, but even though they're all the same characters, they're all a little bit different. So there's enough of a personality difference every time he gets copied that we essentially have more than one character. And he solves all these problems out in space, and he's out there exploring, and there's some conflict with some other von Neumann probes from other countries. And this is just a really fun book. I think if you like Star Trek, there's some Star Trek references in there. If you like Star Trek, you're gonna like a book like this. If you just are looking for a book this is about just Bob exploring and solving and engineering problems out in space. So it was a really fun book, and so it landed in the top of my favorites so far this year. And the fourth book on my list is Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, like I said before, these first four books I kind of like all equally the same. I thought they were all 4-star reads. I enjoyed all of them, but I'm not sure any one kind of edges out the other. I mean, if I was forced to pick a ranking, I probably could, but for the most part, I liked all these four books equally the same. So in this one, it's not a space opera this time, but it is a book set in space, set on this alien planet, where so we have this government that's kind of a fascist government on Earth, and they take their political prisoners and they send them off into space to do manual labor, like mining and collecting samples to study the planets and things like that. And they do this because cheap human labor is not as expensive as building robot explorers. So that's kind of the rationale on why they send these political prisoners. So the main character in this gets sent to the planet Kiln, and it's this alien planet with this incredible alien biology. This planet is teeming with life, but the life is very different from Earth in that each species, there's not really separate species of life. When a biological unit, I would just call it a unit, is encountered, a single biological unit may be comprised of many different species of life on this planet that all kind of come together to form a life form. Like, for instance, the eyeball of a creature might be another species, its organs are a different species, its appendages are a different species. And so there's kind of this swap and trade system going on with this form of life. But they will come together to form different biological units. So that was a really interesting aspect of this, I thought. But the main focus of this plot is actually the political prisoner situation. So they're in this camp, and they have this leader there that's kind of a brutal dictator type. And so all these political prisoners here are really treated very harshly, and there's kind of a rebellion and a resistance brewing. So the main plot of this is focused on the political aspect of this prisoner camp. and the main character, becomes involved in that as he is sent to this planet. So while we do get a lot of the alien life, just be aware that the main focus of this is really the political situation, which I thought was very good. It was very entertaining. It was a fast-paced novel, and I really liked the alien biology aspect. So there's kind of those two main interests going on that led to a really good book. Adrian Tchaikovsky has a lot of interesting ideas, and of course he writes a lot of novels, and quite a few of them are taking place on alien planets. So I really did enjoy this one, and it's a standalone Tchaikovsky novel that I would recommend checking out if you haven't done so yet. So the final book I'm going to talk about for my best of the year so far, and this one just barely edges out the rest as my number one read so far in 2026, and it is it's a newer release for the United States. It was released in January. For the UK, it was released back in I think it was October. But this one is Halcyon Years by Alastair Reynolds. And if you've seen my channel before, you may be aware that this would be no surprise because Alastair Reynolds is my favorite author. And so I really enjoyed this book. I think it approaches 4.5 stars. It's didn't quite get to 5 stars for me, but still a really good, really fun book. It is about a generational starship that is traveling through space and has been doing so for hundreds of years. And the main character is Yuri Gagarin, who Yuri Gagarin is a real person. He was a Russian cosmonaut and the first man in space. And Alastair Reynolds decided to bring him back as a character in Halcyon Years. So in this novel, Yuri Gagarin he's no longer a cosmonaut, but he is a private investigator on board the Halcyon ship. And so this book starts out with a mysterious death on board the ship, and this mysterious woman named Ruby Blue approaches Yuri Gagarin and asks him to investigate this mysterious death. And so from there, it leads to, of course, the investigation, and all kinds of different mysteries are unfolded. Mysteries about this accidental death, about the ship itself, about Yuri Gagarin himself. So there's this kind of, as the story goes, just, this unfolding situation where more of the world opens up, and we have more expanding mysteries from his investigation. We get a look at the world of the Halcyon. It's a generational ship, so it's a very contained world, but it's a very large ship. Kind of almost reminded me of Rendezvous with Rama. It's like this circular interior where it's so big that kind of a whole town and countryside are able to fit into this. So it's like a tube. So if you're on one end, you can look up and see above you is the curve of the rest of the ship, but you're going to see trees and grass and rivers and valleys and things like that. So this is a massive ship. It's kilometers long. They drive cars through it and stuff like that. There's a lake where they go through it on a boat. So this is a kind of a really interesting world that Alastair has built. Even though it's not as expansive as his other novels, he still manages to pack plenty of world building in here that I really enjoyed. This is a standalone book. It's not set in the Revelation Space universe. And it's got this kind of hard-boiled noir mystery aspect to it. So if you like that kind of theme, you're going to like this book as well. And it's got Alastair's usual creative flair to it. We've got some really interesting characters in it. We've got Yuri Gagarin. There's a robot that kind of helps him out sometimes. There are these rubies, Ruby Blue and Ruby Red, that are kind of almost competing characters. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in here. And I think if you like Alastair Reynolds, you're really going to enjoy this book as well. It's not my favorite book of his, but it is a really good book, and it is my favorite book of the year so far. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Those were my 5 best books of the year so far in 2026. So let me know in the comments, what have been your favorite books so far this year? Have you read any of the books that I mentioned? And let me know what you thought about them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time.